Today we get to speak to a power couple of Double Bay.
And I just thought I just can't go back into financial services and insurance, even though I loved what I was doing.
I went to the guys and they offered me an equity position in the business, but then I thought, I think I need to do this for myself. So Cara and I were working together. We joined up with Julian and Ashley, our current business partners at First City, and we pretty well launched that straight into the GFC.
Survivor to me, like my business, is very relationship-based. I'm always looking for the long-term relationship and not be transactional.
I think everybody in business should be striving to be exceptional at their craft. So I've always said that if you don't know what a horse looks like, you can't draw it. Similarly, if you're going to conduct business on a professional level, you need to know all the components of that business.
They offered me a job on my first day and I'm thinking, I don't want to be a real estate wanker.
We've got real estate agents that listen to the podcast. Be careful. Welcome to the Upshot podcast by Homely, where we invite you into honest conversations with entrepreneurs, challengers, and long-standing legends shaping the real estate industry today. Well, thank you all for joining us on the 8th edition of the Upshot podcast here by Homely. My name's Ben Williams, and today we get to speak to a power couple of Double Bay in the real estate market up in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. We've got Brad Caldwell-Eyles and Cara Atchison joining us here today, and it's great to have you both here on the program.
Thanks for having us, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Homely. Thank you very much.
No dramas. Now, a bit of an introduction. Obviously, Brad, you're the managing director of First City in obviously the eastern suburbs of Sydney. You've got a background in car sales, so I look forward to delving into that and how you've transitioned into the real estate space. Cara, you're also a director of the business as well, and you've had a background in finance as a business analyst. And of course, we've got another Survivor contestant on the program today. So I'm a super big Survivor fan. So I look forward to talking about this and your relationship with George as well, because that was very, very interesting. But I guess I just wanted to start off the podcast, and we've not done one with two of you on the program before, but we certainly want to get through this as eloquently as possible. But I guess I just wanted to understand a bit about your background, what you've achieved in the real estate space, and obviously where you see yourself going into the future. So, Brad, we might start with you. Give us a bit of a background on your journey so far.
Sure, Ben, thanks. I'm a simple country boy, was born in Moree. We had property up on the Queensland border at Mungandai. At age 12, as you do, you get kicked out of home to go to boarding school. And then at the end of that, I was off to Sydney Uni, and I studied Shakespeare and literature, psychology, law, etc. I got to the end of studies and I decided that I didn't want to practice. I didn't want to pursue the law, but it was great to have studied it. And when I was at uni, I had a couple of jobs at Country Road and Ralph Lauren. So let's call them sales roles, but they weren't sales roles. But I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to join Inchcape, who were the distributors of Jaguar, Range Rover, etc. So at 23 years of age, I'm driving around in Jags with 3 cheap suits and a big fat telephone, and they paid me $30,000 in the first 6 months I was there, so I thought it was all the money in the world. I thought it was amazing. With love to Jaguar, it's the most forgiven product on the face of this planet. You know, no company's perpetrated more crimes against their clients and survived than Jaguar, but they are a beautiful thing. But Lexus Australia had heard about this kid that was pretty good, so Lexus Australia recruited me, and I ended up being number 1 in Australia for sales volume and number 4 in the world. I was pretty good at it, and being based in the eastern suburbs, I built a pretty fantastic client base, and ended up running their retail operations. I travelled to Japan. We had a team of about 60. It was a pretty big operation. Then a friend of mine who's well known in the real estate business, Michael Pallier, had been the number 1 salesperson at Mercedes-Benz. So he and I used to come up against each other all the time. We'd ring each other and say, "Oh, did you get Ben?" "Yes, I got him into an S-Class." Or "I got Cara into a Lexus," etc., etc. So we'd compete. And then one day Michael said he was leaving the car business to get into real estate. And then some years later he started to ring me and say, "Brad, you don't understand. You've got to come and do this. Like, there's another planet out there and you've got all the contacts and the skills and the background to do this." And I used to say to him, no, Michael, I'm very important, I won't do that. But I was not very important at all. And one day I realised that all my success is being filtered through a greater number of people, and maybe I should do something for myself. And I reached out to Michael, and he said, you need to get down here now. We're buying Rain and Horn Double Bay now. So I turn up at the office, which is under renovation, to meet Michael, Martin Maskin, Barry Goldman, all good friends of mine, and not at the time, but today. And they said, we want you to join us. You're the real deal. You're a 5%er. And I said, well, what are you suggesting? Like, I'm not certified. I don't know where Smith Street is. What are you suggesting I do? So for whatever reason, the three of them in their new business believed I was the real deal, and so they backed me and they underwrote me. And at the time, I didn't realise what an opportunity that was, but today I understand the faith that they placed in me. So then I took off, and as it turns out, my old Lexus client base came good, and I was getting houses and developments and things that I just shouldn't have gotten at 5 months in the business. So I said to the guys after 5 months, listen, I've written more in 5 months than you were going to give me in the first 12 months. I don't like being on the cord as such. So I cut the cord and went out on my own within the Rain and Horn network. And I worked with the guys for a number of years and call my own reviews every year to see where I was up to. And bit by bit, my business grew. But eventually I reached a point where I didn't have equity in the business, but I was helping the guys run their business. So I had to make a decision on what my future looked like. And I went to the guys and they offered me an equity position in the business. But then I thought, I think I need to do this for myself. So 15, 16 years ago, I joined up with, so Cara and I were working together. We joined up with Julian and Ashley, our current business partners at First City. And we pretty well launched that straight into the GFC.
Fantastic.
In terms of what is today First City, Julian Hazemer had a business, FIRST City Realty, First City Realty, and he focused mostly on development projects. But we wanted to expand the business, so we joined and we got rid of the name First City Realty and became 1ST, First City Real Estate Group. And we certainly conduct business in established residential property, commercial property, but we have forged a space in development and projects across the eastern suburbs and now onto the lower North Shore as well.
Fantastic. It's a bit of a journey that you've been on, going from car sales to where you are today. It's very, very exciting. And Cara, fill us in on your journey. Obviously, your focus is more on the operations and the marketing side of First City, but you've obviously come from the business analyst background. Give us a rundown on your career.
Yes, so I started at MLC, which turned into NAB. I was a business analyst there, which basically means that I can deal with the programming and IT side. I have that brain, and also the business side, because usually the both of them don't connect in any way. So I can sit in the middle and interpret and advise both of them. So there were some pretty big projects there. And I actually left to go on maternity leave, and I just thought I just can't go back into financial services and insurance. It's a really role industry, even though I loved what I was doing. Just, dealing with death and TPD is just not the most dynamic thing in the world. So I decided I didn't know how to buy a house, so I thought I'll start in real estate for one day a week with a friend. I actually started with McGrath. Just temping, actually, and the very first day, because I was a mature, administrator, manager, very capable person, they offered me a job on my first day, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be a real estate wanker. Fast forward, 17 years, even a bit longer now. I'm sort of that. Not really the wanker part, but just the rest of it. I'm really enjoying it.
We've got real estate agents that listen to the podcast. Be careful.
Well, there's probably good ones out there.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next question. So obviously you guys have carved out a very niche business in your marketplace, particularly focusing on the project sales side of things. Are you able to walk us through some of the things that you're doing differently in your marketplace to achieve such success, particularly around the project side of things? We'll start with you, Brad.
So the question is, what made us different? And I would say to you that we've always striven to be exceptional. And I think everybody in business should be striving to be exceptional at their craft. And part of that is I've always said that if you don't know what a horse looks like, you can't draw it. You actually need to know what it looks like before you can actually draw that horse. Similarly, if you're going to conduct business on a professional level, you need to know all the components of that business. So we have educated ourselves, our whole team, on issues of planning, design, construction, architecture, all the apartment guidelines, funding, Cara, other items.
Also interiors and finishes. It's also an important one. For example, I know regularly, Bradley, that you go out and actually help select some of the stones or, tapware, et cetera, et cetera.
So we understand our market intimately, and but we look at every project, every piece of dirt like it's our own money. And it is never our own money. We never get in conflict with our clients. However, we look at every deal. And so there's deals that come across our table where our clients are considering buying a certain piece of land, and we say no, it doesn't work. So we'll talk ourselves or our clients out of business opportunities because we don't believe they work. And that's very much a long-term view on our relationship with our clients. So in terms of our business, I think we have forged the space that we have because A, we genuinely are exceptional and we really know our stuff, and B, our clients completely trust our views. And those are probably the two most important components. We know what we're talking about and they trust us. And I say to everybody, you need to find your thing. Our thing is imbuing confidence with our clients.
I just also wanted to add to that, our clients trust us and we know our stuff because we have a genuine interest and curiosity in it. We're not just waxing lyrical to them to tell them what they want to hear. We genuinely deep dive and learn what is going on, even contractually, way beyond and above a lot of other agents do.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point that you both raise. Not telling the client exactly what they want to hear and actually giving them the right advice does build a lot of trust, and it seems that that's what you really focus on. And I'm sure that you'll have clients coming back to you well and truly into the future off the back of that strategy in itself. So credit to you both. Cara, I just wanted to touch on something that we were sort of discussing off air yesterday. I know that in your previous business experience, and working for the banks that you mentioned, you had a focus around, I guess, implementation and, I guess, processes. You also mentioned that you have a big focus on innovation and technology to try and stay ahead of the competition. Are you able to sort of delve into that a little bit more?
We try and keep, I particularly am passionate about IT, so I try and keep ahead of technology using programmatic ads and, again, tailoring each specific campaign quite deeply for each project. Like every project has a different kind of essence and identity, and you really need to tap into that and work out exactly who your target market is, and serving up ads to them and the like is part of our strategy, particularly going into the new realm of, IT and the like.
And Brad, I think you mentioned yesterday that you focus on some of the design elements and adapting projects to be more suitable to the buyers in the marketplace. Are you able to run us through that strategy that you've got that gets you ahead of the curve? Or
look, I think we do know what the market wants, and that's confidence, not arrogance. And I say that for every different location that we look at. So Old South Head Road, Rose Bay is a different market to Cross Street and Double Bay, which is a different market to Marine Drive and Maroubra, or whatever the case may be. So they're all different markets and they've all got different attributes. Not all the time do architects themselves have that sense. So they'll deliver a very nice design, but it may not be suitable for the market. So one of the things that we have proven to be able to do very successfully is we'll take architects' plans away without their DWG files, without their CAD files, and we will redraw those plans. And we'll redraw them to the point that we've had clients say to us, who gave you approval to get the architects to do that? You just cost me $10,000. And we said, we didn't. We did it ourselves. How did you do it? That's our business. A girl's got to have her secrets. We've had architects get our plans back thinking that they are their own plans. And then they look again, they realise somebody's done these again, and that's us. We delve into this. It's intricate. It takes a lot of time, but it's worthwhile. We deliver the right product. We've had architects actually get us to come into their offices to teach their architects what to deliver to the market. We've had architects have us redraw plans to go back into contracts without needing to do it themselves. And this is just part of the value add component that First City represents. And I've been drawing these pictures for years and years ago, Jules used to say to me, why are you drawing these pictures? And I'd say, part of it's meditative, it's creative, I enjoy it. But secondly, we're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. And when you're sitting with, let's say, Mr. and Mrs. customer, and they're considering, varying the floor plan, when we do this, it looks like a bought one. It looks like it's been done absolutely properly, and they really engage with it. If you've just got a piece of paper with red scribbles all over it, they don't buy into it. You hand them back a floor plan like the architect's just done it, but we've done it in-house in half an hour. We get real buy-in, and that's just one of the variations that we provide. I guess I would say if you don't truly believe that the value your clients get is greater than the fees that you charge, you'll always fear being in business. So every day we wake up to ensure that what we give our clients exceeds the fees that we charge. And if you don't do that, you're plainly an imposter. You're literally tricking people to pay you fees that you're not worth. And we believe every day that we are adding value to our client's situation. We're passionate about it, and we protect our clients' interests jealously.
Yeah, I love that.
Bradley and I are also Virgos, so we absolutely delve into just adding to Brad's drawing of the plans, which he's being very kind to himself. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than half an hour. But we cross-reference the architectural drawings with the construction diagrams, with the floor plans, the marketing floor plans, and quite frequently work out that, okay, there's a door there that's going into a void or something like that, and someone's missed it, which impacts, all the way down the chain. So we get a lot of people are very grateful for catching, those seemingly small errors that can extrapolate out to quite a lot of big mistakes. So that's also the detail that we do, and we teach our team to do that as well.
Very good. And so are you taking, I guess, back to your point earlier, Brad, around adjusting based off the market? Is that from feedback from the buyers that you're dealing with, or is that just based off your previous experience that you're making those adjustments to the floor plans?
Both, Ben.
Both.
So sometimes it's long-held experience, and sometimes it's on the spot where you, as I say, have Mr. and Mrs. Customer, Mr. and Mr. Customer, Mrs. and Mrs. Customer, who are giving you feedback on the spot about what they need. And I guess I would draw attention to a project we have in Double Bay right now called Ode. And the top 2 floors we've just sold out, and they averaged about $20 million per unit for those top 6 apartments. Record-breaking deals, $16 to $25 million, as I say, averaging about 20 mil. That market is a very sophisticated market, and they have built homes, they understand architecture, and they're demanding. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of knowledge to take those people on that journey and maintain their confidence. And what I can tell you is, at the end of every one of those negotiations, they have paid, at a minimum, full asking price, if not more. Because we've built value into the product and built confidence into the process. We guard the gross realisation of our projects very jealously. So ultimately, the pricing we achieve is always what we're asking. We don't discount, but to not discount, you have to build value in the first place.
Very good.
What do I say? Price is what you pay, value is what you get.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, I think that I've been spending a bit of time in Double Bay over the last few weeks. I've got to say, it's probably one of my favourite parts of the world. So you're very lucky to be selling in that marketplace, particularly the very top end. So well done on that. But Look, I think in terms of where we like to take these podcasts, obviously you're both business owners and you're doing some really great things in your marketplace, but things don't always go to plan, right? There's always things along the journey that, ruffle some feathers, some really big challenges that you need to overcome. It'd be great to get an indication from both of you around some of the challenges that you've faced during your business career and how you've overcome them. So maybe, Brad, if you want to go first.
GFC,
Yeah.
global financial crisis. So we literally walked straight into the single largest economic meltdown since the Great Depression. And so we knew we were alive, and we had to battle through that in a new business and to come out the other side. And I think all I can say about that period is we didn't have a choice. We were a new business, and we literally just had to put our heads down, bums up, and just work through it. And we got through it. And I think the biggest thing I take out of that is that we got through it, that we literally looked into the abyss of the GFC and found a way to just keep forging ahead. And there's no point looking over your shoulder, no point crying. You don't have a choice. You just have to keep going. So GFC was very, very lean. However, I would juxtapose that to COVID for us. So COVID was another massive global issue. Plainly, I don't need to tell everybody that. But on the 23rd of March 2021 at 11 a.m, we had a Zoom meeting with our accountant, Anthony Bell and Rita, and they said, guys, this is the real deal. Shut it down. This is coming. And I remember at the end of that hour, turning the Zoom call off and putting my head down and thinking that felt like September 11. Like, it was so dark and nobody knew what to do. We've never faced anything like that. And we had to go through the terrible period of standing people down and shutting down the lights and so on and so forth. But here's something that came out of it. We work on projects. We don't need to do open homes. We could do most of the work via Zoom. And so as it turned out, as sentiment just started to pick back up, we were still in a position to make money. And so it turns out we survived COVID pretty well by virtue of the specifics of our business. So we can still sell established houses, we can still sell established commercial buildings, but our projects business meant that we could do it remotely and continue to write business, which we did. And then we all know what happened next. COVID broke, and then the market took off, and that was incredible. Then there's working with your better half. Cara Lee?
Problem. It's not meant to be a problem. I think we were talking about problems.
It has its moments, right?
Yes, it certainly does. Obviously, working together and literally sitting 2 metres away back to back can be helpful in many other ways. Obviously, across a lot of what Brad does, which is positive in terms of clients and relationships and, dealing with developers and the projects themselves, sort of overseeing all that. But yes, if we have a little fight or have a little cog grind, as Bradley says, we will literally go for a drive in the car. And we've got a specific route around Darling Point and Double Bay, and we do hope to find some resolution by the first loop, but occasionally we've gone for the second loop. I think once we went on the third loop.
I think we did it
on the side of the road in the car. But yeah, it does. It does help. I'm separately. What I was going to add is that finding the right people has always been a problem, like the world over, in every single job and workplace that is around. We're really passionate about delving into the psychology of our people, including the psychology of our clients, and just really understanding them and making them feel heard and validated. And as a result, we also have a really good team around us that are really loyal and understanding. So one of the issues of staff and turnaround, which is going to happen naturally with natural attrition, we have really dedicated, loyal people around who are just actually good people to be around socially even as well. So we do have a lot of events we have a barbecue on the balcony that we have at work, and we just really keep our people really close and tight and communicate. So circling back to COVID, when everyone was on Teams and not in the office, we found that the learning was a little bit trickier because you have sort of natural kind of osmotic learning that goes on when you're actually in an office together, even though, it does get grates on some people's nerves sometimes. It was really beneficial to have everyone back in and communicating like they had originally done before COVID as well.
So I'll touch on Cara and her passion for psych testing, etc. So everybody that comes into our business is profiled, and not to eliminate them as candidates, just to understand them better and how they tick. We have a particular question that we ask, which is the bat and ball question, the 5 and the 10. We won't get into it now, but it determines emotional thinkers versus logical thinkers and so on and so forth. So we're very conscious of how individuals process information and how they process emotionally. And so we try to learn each of our team's processing ways so that we can actually work better together. So there's certain people in our business that, for instance, I can say one thing to and they completely absorb it, but another person in our business, that's not the way to communicate with them. So internally, we're really passionate about making communication work. And then, as Cara said rightly, that then flips to the outside world, to our clients. Some days clients are reacting in ways that doesn't make sense. And so often I'll put my phone on speakerphone because Cara's particularly intuitive in these things, and she'll write me a note. He's looking for your approval, or whatever the case may be. Cara's fantastic in that way.
Very good.
I'm actually an empath, so it does also help. An empath with a business mind. So that's why I can go from one end to the other.
And Brad, what's your personality? Let's see if they does contrast. Are you the opposite end of the spectrum?
Look, we're yin and yang.
Okay.
Having said that, Cara and I have actually done a lot of life coaching, etc. together. We really believe in the process, and I think year by year, we as a couple learn more and more about each other, and I think we grow closer together. But it's also an evolving relationship in terms of work, family, what we do together, what we do separately, so on and so forth. But the nice thing about us is we're committed to the process, and we really believe in that process of learning about each other. In terms of my empath wife, that has taken her on other journeys, of course, such as Survivor.
Yeah, well, that's my next question, because obviously you went a long way down the path on Survivor Season 6. I watched that season with great interest, and you partnered up with good old-fashioned Bill and George all the way towards the end, which was very good. We've had another guest on Survivor, and we've heard his story, but I want to understand, because you got a long way through this process, what was it like for you?
In terms of relating back to real estate, or just in terms of general bit of fun stuff?
Well, the general experience, but then I guess what you've applied to your life following this as well.
Yeah, okay. So Survivor to me, like my business, is very relationship based. I'm always looking for the long-term relationship and not be transactional. So in my Survivor life, I teamed up very quickly with George because I got him very quickly because I understood him when no one else was getting him. And I think that was the empath side of it, which I then applied to my team and clients as well. And again, just circling back, just not being a transactional kind of choppy player that will burn bridges, similarly in business. So George would cut off anyone's legs if he could, and I would be behind, forming relationships and corralling him in. And again, that's pretty much what I do with the team. And when you have architects and designers and creatives and developers, all opposite in a room, you really need to be able to corral them in. So I think I'm very good at that. And I'm always myself. So, sometimes I say silly things like we all do, but I can also, understand, DAs and council regulations, et cetera, et cetera. So I can flip between the two or three or whatever the personalities are. So Survivor was was good in that regard for, again, relationships, I think was the main key goal. And also for me personally and our business, just integrity. I know sometimes I think people overuse the word integrity. It was very important for me when I went on Survivor to maintain integrity for my business, for my family, and just my normal everyday life. Apparently I'm the most honest player in Australian Survivor history, which is funny because it juxtaposes against George. But I always used to say to the people, particularly Hayley, she's like, I don't believe you. I'm like, well, when you watch it back, you'll see, where I got to. And what I was saying was actually the truth. So, yeah, there's been a lot of parallels. And, surviving in the real estate industry is a bit like Survivor. It can be, brutal.
And what was the process like? I mean, was it one of the hardest things you've ever done, or did you? What's your thoughts around that?
Well, it's really, really hard. It's not one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I'm an adventure junkie. I love anything. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. I've done hang gliding and bungee jumping, and all of the items that one adventure junkie would think. Bradley and I just love watching Survivor, and I'm super competitive. I don't know if people know that about me. Even we had a backstory being filmed, and we had a pretend card game. And I got a bit annoyed that I didn't win the pretend card game, even in the backstory of that. So Survivor is definitely brutal. I subluxed my 5th rib there. I had 2 toenails removed in the bush, literally just with tweezers by the medic. Oh. I screamed the tent down, by the way. What else did I do? Almost broke my nose. I got a 3rd-degree rope burn on my arm, so I lost all the flesh in my arm. I don't have any tattoos, so that's kind of my little scar tattoo. It is really hard. I lost 10% of my body weight. We all lost 10% of our body weight by the time we get to the end. And it does really, you find your resilience, which is also good for real estate. You need to be resilient in real estate too. So
absolutely. And Brad, for you, how was it?
Yeah, okay, so Survivor. Cara was away for 10 weeks, so essentially an entire school term. And given that she did so well, we didn't speak a single word, not one piece of communication apart from a letter that I was allowed to send her for 7 weeks. It's a thing. And Survivor has psychologists, and they actually deal with us at home, and they said to us before Cara went away, this is going to be like a death. Don't underestimate how tough this is going to be. And it's true. It's really tough having your best friend and other half away for that period of time, and particularly to have no contact and no idea what's going on. Having said that, what it also did was allow me some space to continue to evaluate our relationship and our work and the way we committed ourselves to our workspace, but also our personal life. So that was actually a really cathartic experience. Because Cara went so far, they flew me up to Mount Isa to be one of the family visits. The top 3 actually got to do the family visit. The top 4 were flown up. We land there. An hour later, I get the news Cara's voted out. I went, no, okay, well done. In fact,
bloody George.
That was actually ideal because I got to fly up to see her and be part of the experience and be up on set. But I didn't have to do jazz hands in slow motion running towards the camera. So it was kind of the perfect scenario. And the evening she got voted out, I got to speak to Cara, and we had a whole conversation as I walked around the streets of Mount Isa at midnight speaking to her for the first time in ages. And we talked about fresh ideas and changes to our business and changes to the way we work together and so on and so forth. It was really lovely. But the next day, they took me to see her for the first time, and she gets out of a four-wheel drive, and she's wearing this beaten-up black leather jacket, this little black sports bra top and bike pants with a big hole ripped in the backside, and she looked like leather. She was brown and dirty and skinny, and she had a mark on her nose. She had this horrible burn on her arm. She had scratches all over. She was missing toenails. And I always used to say that Cara was my princess, but I said to her, you are a goddess. I was just blown away what she had gotten through, not only to get through the game, but even the emotional component of being away from family, to be living on the dirt, to be physically beating yourself up, all of this sort of thing, and then to come out the other end, I was truly amazed and very impressed and very proud of my wife.
Thank you. Well, this princess will now eat food off the floor. I have no issues, no qualms about that anymore.
Yeah.
When all our survivors get together, we only use sort of a couple of plates, and it's just like, rah, survivor food trauma. We just eat in with our hands and go for it. It's a bit messy to the outside world.
You've inherited the title, the Duchess of WA. So has it helped your, I guess, profile in your marketplace as well? Has it brought in new business off the back of that, do you think?
So before I went in, Bradley and I were just kind of tossing around what it might actually mean to the business, and we really weren't sure. I don't know if you know this, but we've also done the block a few times.
Yeah.
So Bradley particularly has done a couple of times. And the television experience and what you think the exposure you might get or whatever is vastly different to what actually happens. The biggest thing, which was a bit of a surprise that came out, was that I all of a sudden had a bit more kudos, particularly with developers and clients who usually I'd be sitting down and be the girly girl or whatever, and listening. I'm still very capable, but if I'm a faceless, blonde woman in a man's development real estate world, which it frequently is, I now had, I guess, a seat at the table with a bit of kudos and a bit of street cred, and people were just interested in it as well. Like it has given me automatic street cred, I think, is the biggest thing that came out of it, and that opened up different doors for us.
Fantastic.
Including, frankly, even this podcast. Like, usually it would just be Bradley, because he's also a good talker.
No, it's good to have you on.
I remember the story where I was selling an apartment in Rose Bay, and there was a mum, dad, and their 10-year-old twin sons at the property. And then the mum's mother came in, so the grandmother came in, and she knew me. And she said, Cara's so brave, was the survivor was being televised at the time. She's so brave. And the family said, who's Cara? I said, it's my wife. She's on Survivor. Anyway, the kids and the dad just wet their pants. They were so excited. And so I just sent Cara a message at the time very quickly, send me video addressed to Sebastian and Louis. Anyway, 30 seconds later, Cara sends through this video, hi, Sebastian and Louis, Cara from Survivor. And I sent it to the dad on the spot. And he showed the kids, and they were beyond excited. And they promptly bought the property, is where this goes. And it's moments like that where Cara has these little instances of leverage and excitement and interest in what she's done over and above what she already had. And we also discussed, as Cara just said a second ago, she'll be in meetings where in the past maybe people knew her or didn't, but now they really took an interest in her. So she's really been able to leverage from that very effectively.
Very good, very good. Now, I'm going to move on to a bit more business stuff, because I guess we're moving into some somewhat shaky economic climate at the moment. Obviously, we've had a lot of rate rises and there's talk of recessions and those sorts of things. I guess I want to get an understanding, because you're in the project space and the development space, what your thoughts are around what's going to happen in the short to medium term.
Firstly, I don't think Australians like being down for a long time. We do have a sentimental market. So if there's a change of government or a Greek bank goes wrong or there is an interest rate change, we tend to react to those moments. But then I find that individuals then kind of pat themselves down and realise, actually, we're okay. So when the individual realises they're okay, they tend to move forward with their decisions. They want to move on with their lives, so on and so forth. And in fact, I think COVID had an effect on that, where people really did reflect on quality of life and making changes to enhance their family life or their lifestyle, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to project space, I think that projects in the eastern suburbs with prices up to $3 million are ticking along quite nicely. I think that projects that are exceptional What I mean by that is really special stuff at $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, $30 million apartments. That continues to tick along because it turns out there is a lot of money in the eastern suburbs. There's a lot of cash around. And if you're delivering something special, the cash will pick that up.
Quality never fails. Does it?
Quality never fails. Spot on, Cara. It's the middle sector that's a little bit more tenuous. So anywhere from, say, $4 to $9 million in the project space, those buyers are usually downsizers, but they are very dependent upon the sale of their home. In a market where everything was going up, they were very happy to buy off the plan and then a year and a half time sell their house, which they believe was worth more than it was a year and a half earlier, having locked in the price of the apartment. In a market that's uncertain, those buyers have become much more cautious. What we are seeing, though, is a change in the buyer pattern there, where buyers are getting to a point where they do want to make the move. They do need to downsize. They've got a 2-story house. They want to release some cash, whatever the case may be. So what they're doing is they're selling their house, cashing out, getting the $12 million, whatever it is they're getting out of their house, and then they're coming knocking on our door. But what they want is a project that's going to be finished in the next 4 or 6 months because they've sold their home. So that buyer cycle has changed for that middle market, and I call that middle market $4 to $10 million. So we're definitely seeing some caution and change in buyer behaviour there.
Interesting. And so with the cost of, I guess, construction going up quite a bit over the last 12 to 18 months, are developers wearing that cost in their margins, or are they passing that on to the buyers on the other side of the equation?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. If they've already bought the dirt, then undoubtedly their construction costs have gone up, particularly during COVID and all that rain. Their holding costs went up just by virtue of time. And then, of course, the actual cost of funds have gone up as well. So margins have definitely been squeezed, there's no doubt. And we've seen projects that have exceeded their original target pricing, gross realisation, and still barely scraped through as a profit. That has started to evolve because we are seeing prices for development sites have actually come down. That's the only thing that can change, because the prices for the new projects are not necessarily going up. If you're in that middle sector, that very nice 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double parking apartment market, that's somewhere between $4 and $8 million, that's a fairly consistent price point. So the only thing that can change is the price of the land.
I think there was a bit of a labour shortage during COVID also, which were driving, tradies' prices through the roof.
Yep.
And part of that, I think, the construction, the construction managers and all the costs associated with the people involved, I think, has also changed a bit, become a bit more normalised now.
Yeah.
Some good news is that items like steel, so the cost of some of the commodities are starting to come down. So hopefully we'll see some of the material costs reduced, but not to any great margin. I think developers now are being particularly vigilant in their acquisition of sites, and we're actually probably seeing I'm going to call it cowboy developers falling away because they just don't have the equity or the experience to deliver on project when it gets a bit tighter.
Yeah, no, it's probably where you'll see the tough getting going and the others falling away by the wayside and losing all their money, right? Now, I'm going to circle back really quickly just to one more thing, because obviously you're a couple, you've got a family together, and obviously you run a business together. I ran a business with my wife, so I know that there are inherent challenges with that, but we looked at the business as our own baby and we worked on that together, so that's all we talked about. I guess I want to understand from you both how you balance it all. I know that you go for drives when things get challenging and you can do the block a couple of times or 3 times at worst, but is there anything else that you put in place to balance it all out for you?
Babe, do you want me to take this?
Yeah, sure.
So particularly after Survivor, we decided to have just days not at work. COVID taught us that we could do work from home. We've got laptops, so on and so forth. So sometimes we just don't come to the office and get things done from home, which is great. And happily, we've built a team around us to be able to facilitate that. Last year when we went to Europe, we're able to be very effective away overseas, again, thanks to the team that we have here and the technology available to us. But we also learned to stop sweating the small stuff. That's really important. The stuff will work out if you've built the team and the processes behind the scenes. The other component is that we built a client base of really great collaborators, which also means that Cara and I have that flexibility to just take time away. But other things we do, we're doing it this afternoon. We're just going for a walk. We just like to walk down to the park. We've got a pond at Cooper Park we sit by, and we just take in nature and we just kind of meditate together. But the other thing we've learnt to do is to have time on our own. So recently, Cara took off to Europe for 3 weeks with the girls, and I say the girls and gays trip. So she hung out with George for a period of time, et cetera, and she just had a ball. And Cara and I, whenever Wi-Fi would allow, we would connect and chat, et cetera, and I'd get all the reports of what's going on. And Cara, how was that for you, that trip?
It was really fun. It was really cathartic and nice, and yes, to have a girls' trip and again, having a trusted team around us. So I felt I could actually do that. Was really nice, special, once in a lifetime.
Do you think about work at all whilst you're on those trips, or is it completely tune out and recharge?
No, we never completely really tune out and recharge, but there's a certain satisfaction in just cruising through emails just to go, that's already sorted, that's done,
Yep.
just to keep it like an eye over it,
Yep.
but without feeling that heart-grabbing reaction to go, oh, I need to jump in and sort that out. Again, the systems we've got in place, the checklists, the procedures, the clients, the depth we have in the team with everything. And also in addition, mistakes do happen or things do go wrong that aren't necessarily mistakes. But our clients trust us that if need be, we will jump in and help. And, we can do that by telephone and email and, Zoom, et cetera, et cetera. So building trust into that with the clients and the team also really help that they know we will get in there and get our hands dirty if we need, even if we're overseas. Obviously, we prefer not to, but, it's work and life balance. Well, I always think work and personal life is almost the same thing, but you just find the balance between all of it in the whole pie. So yeah, I think we manage it pretty well.
Very good. Now, we're getting towards the end of the podcast, but there's a few more questions I just want to cover off on. I guess the big picture, where do you see your business going over the next sort of 6, 12, 24 months? Do you have any big things in the pipeline that you're working on at the moment?
So we've got a pretty big chunk of the project market in the eastern suburbs. I think when we did an analysis, we've got about 50% of projects across the eastern suburbs, which is a big sector. Yeah. Cara, myself, Jules, all used to live on the lower North Shore. And so we've decided that we'd like to then take on projects on the lower North Shore. And so we've just started that. So we have projects in Camaray, Mossman, Kirribilli, et cetera, under development. And it's accessible to us geographically, and it's accessible to us in terms of our knowledge of the locations. And they're both premium markets. So we're really excited to be going to the lower North Shore. But at the same time, we don't need to continue to get market share. What we're really focused on is quality of collaborations with our clients. We've learned prayer pose. Ben, you and I discussed this before, where there's times we realise that a particular collaboration doesn't suit our business. And so we always very kindly say in those instances, thank you so much for the opportunity, but it's just not quite right for us. Thank you. Now, learning to do that empowers us and our whole team to treat ourselves well and to respect our own needs, et cetera, our own boundaries. But it also means that we get fantastic quality clients, fantastic quality developments, and fantastic collaborations. And that is key to everything in terms of our work-life balance as well, where our clients actually say, go overseas. You've earned it. We don't want to bother you. Your team is amazing. We'll get it done. We have young Zach in our team who's been working with Cara and I closely for 5.5 years, and our clients ring up and say, oh, Brad, I just spoke to Zach. It's just like talking to you. And I said, is that good or bad? They say it's great. I said, does that mean I'm redundant? Largely, fantastic. So if we can create a team that continues to imbue our clients broadly with that confidence, that takes that singular focal key person dependence away.
Yep, I like that. Cara, anything else to add? You're not looking to branch into any other states at the moment?
Good question. To be continued. Just one little sector that I'm particularly passionate about because of our developments, particularly sometimes they have commercial at the bottom, and I'm really passionate. I really like commercial and retail real estate. It has synergies with developers and development. It's very clinical, so you're dealing with less emotive people, and there's a lot to be learned in that space. And it also helps out our clients because we've got commercial down the bottom and resi on top. We need to be able to be developing in that commercial space as well. From like shell to fit out, etc., to leasing. So that's a particular avenue that I like to focus on and drive the team to also comprehend the complexities of it.
Very good, very good. Now, I've got two quick fire questions for you both. They're very simple ones, and it's really just to get an understanding of where you think things are going. But the property market for the rest of the year, obviously Sydney seems to be booming again. Where do you see things going towards the back end of this year, moving into the spring market?
I will say we've got a new head of the Reserve Bank. We didn't put up interest rates this month. There seems to be a view that we're getting close to the peak of the cash rate, and I also believe that the market has accepted the new norm when it comes to mortgage rates. Once again, I come back to what I said before, that people have now dusted themselves off and want to get on with life. And I think that's, again, intrinsic in Australia, that when we've worked out we're okay, we get back on the horse. I think the market is going to get back on the horse bit by bit by bit. I suspect we'll really see it in February next year, but even over this next half of the year, I think we'll see increases in activity and increases in transactions, and I think we'll actually pick up. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited by it.
Yeah. Cara, anything to add on that?
Obviously, a part of coming out of COVID was we were $1 trillion in debt because of JobSeeker and JobKeeper. And when the borders are opening up, there's more people coming through. That also eases, the stress of being locked down, not just in a physical sense, but just stagnant. So it just keeps things moving. And when things are moving, people get more comfortable, as Brad said. And, the norm just kind of lifts to a new norm. And then the wheel greases again and continues to move, and I think it snowballs and goes quicker. So I think that's what's going to happen.
I think Cara touched on the borders opening up, and plainly our immigration policies have also opened up, and there's a significant plan to see a lot of immigration of skilled migrants. So we anticipate seeing a lot of offshore money coming into Australia, and we are already seeing signs of that. And I guess the most recognisable sign is Asian inquiry, and we're seeing a vast uplift in Asian inquiry on properties. So I think we'll see that taking hold as well over this next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, very good. Now, final question, both being in the project space. If I'm a buyer looking to buy something off the plan, what bit of advice would you give to me if I haven't done this before?
Firstcity.com.au?
Yeah. Yeah, good piece of advice.
I actually think, so Cara said that with certain levity, but I actually think it's true to a degree. Off-the-plan purchasing is all about confidence. So I think you need to engage with an agent, a developer, whatever the case may be, that you can truly dig into and feel confident with the process. There are so many questions that you should be asking. And so what we often do is we'll say to, again, I'll say Mr. and Mrs. Customer, come into the office for 2 hours. we've got 30 projects right now to look at. Let's take you from top to bottom through the process, et cetera, et cetera. So they come away from that going, okay, that's stuff I didn't know before. We don't presume to give legal advice, but we're in a nice position that we have an education on that front. The laws protecting the consumer in the off-the-plan space have been so enhanced over the last few years. And so I love telling Mr. and Mrs. Customer that information. I always say to them, look, don't listen to me, I'm the agent, go and ask your lawyer, but we know what the lawyer is going to say. The commission is there to ensure that certain builds are taken care of the right way, consumer protection have all been enhanced, and we're in a position to truly deep dive with them and take them on the journey all the way through. So I would say to any buyer in the first place, educate yourself, and part of that is meeting up with the right people to really understand the process. And I really enjoy taking people on that journey myself and seeing their eyes open and their spirits lift as they feel confident in the process. At the same time, we imbue on our developer clients, do not do anything that disrupts that confidence. You must maintain it. It is key to the process. The minute you do something that undermines the confidence in the project space, you will ruin that opportunity. So confidence is key.
Yep. And we really do spend a lot of time with buyers, with the developers, like right down to, Brad will change the design of a laundry cupboard to suit the needs of a particular buyer, for example. That's just a random example, but just the nuances that we go to look after our clients, all of the buyers and the developers, to such a high level of detail. It is time consuming, but it's just worth it in the end. There's an old saying, they know you, like you, trust you. So once they work out that we're just trying to bring the best for everybody, and it's not, again, transactional, it's long term. We want referrals from it, which we pretty much a referral based business now, particularly with Brad's side of the business. So that trust that is imbued and the time, it's like dating. You've got to build the time and the trust and put in the hours before you can, marry them with a house.
Good advice.
So Ben, if I could, something I've always said is that I have no interest in trying to get people I don't know to do things they don't want to do.
Yep.
That's the antithesis of the way I want to conduct my own business and the way we operate. So you need to earn the connection in the first place, whether it's with your developer clients, whether it's with your house selling clients, whatever the case may be, but also with buyers. And so you need to move past dealing with someone that you don't know and move past getting them to do something they don't want to do. We want to deal with people we do know and have them enjoy the process with us.
And we give a lot. We're very generous without any expectation of return from that. Or maybe it might be 10 years down the track. Brad will spend 10 years, for example, giving to a client, and eventually after a decade they'll come back and sell when the time's right for them. So we're really about giving.
And here's the sad thing. If my phone rings and I can't take it and Cara picks it up and answers it, my clients would all rather speak to her than me anyway.
You're very kind, Brad.
I think that's the same in any marriage though, Brad. But anyway, that's okay.
Thanks, Ben.
I know my wife is far more enjoyable to speak to than I am, but, it is what it is. But, look, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today. A lot of really valuable information that we've covered off on, particularly in the project space, and obviously the journey that you've been on together, which is very exciting for you both. We thank you for supporting Homely, and we look forward to catching up with you very, very soon.
Wonderful.
And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really fun. Thanks, Ben.
Before you go, please hit follow, like and subscribe to make sure you have me and my next guest back in your ears in 2 weeks' time. Until then, make sure you share this episode with your friends and colleagues, find details and resources in the show notes, and get in touch via Homely socials with any questions. That's at homely.com.au on Insta, Facebook and TikTok.